What's up everybody, welcome to my channel, Cosmopolitan Cocktail Club. This is a space where I'll be sharing with you all my design techniques that I use to create my very own NFT project. Now if you get something out of the content, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button, and also in the bio there'll be a link to my Discord server, and if you join up you can get exclusive offers, giveaways and whitelist opportunities. Now today's tutorial we're going to be looking at how I created that sparkle that runs across the top of the glasses. There's two ways to do it. One way is using a plugin from Red Giant called Glimmer. If you don't have that, don't worry, there's a workaround using Photoshop. Let's get it! Okay, hi everybody. So let's create this sparkle. Now the first thing we need to do is jump into After Effects. So once we're in here, I'm going to bring my footage across from my NFT, Miami Nights, and just drop it over here in my project panel. And then I'm going to bring it down and make it a new composition in my timeline. So you see it there. Now on top of that, I want to create a new composition. So we'll go up to composition, go new composition, and call it Sparkle 2. One thing you want to be aware of as well is when you're creating a composition, if you've got existing compositions in your project or footage in your project, you want to try your best to keep the frame rates the same. I've noticed that in the past, if I've had different frame rates for different compositions, or it's not matching up with certain footage that I've included, that when I go to render out the final project, I can have some problems, especially in media encoders. So just be aware that you want your frame rates to always be the same with what you're working with. Duration 9 seconds, that's good. That's the same as my footage here, and the background color is not important. So let's just click OK. And go back into that sparkle composition, the original one, and let's bring the new one down on top of the footage and place it down there. Alright, now before we add the sparkle, let's just have a look at the footage as it is, and that way we can sort of see where we want it to start, where we want it to end, and put it in a nice spot. So let's just watch it through. Okay, it's running through nicely. Beautiful. Okay, so sometimes it does miss a bit of render. You've got to help it out sometimes, but it's not that important for now. So let's just scroll through and find the place we want to start. I think in the original animation it was somewhere around here, after the liquid had sort of finished pouring into the glass. So this is a good spot to put it. Okay, so next what we might do, we might zoom in a little bit here. Now on our sparkle composition here, we're going to add a mask. Alright, so to add a mask, click up here on our pen tool, and we're going to draw a line from one edge of the glass to the other, trying to follow it as best we can. Now we can go back and just adjust little parts if we need to, but something like that's going to work fine. If you're not happy with the mask color, that's a little bit hard for you to see. You can easily change that by clicking on mask, going down here to the color square, and just maybe making it something a little bit brighter that pops out for us. There we go. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so next step is what we want to do is generate a stroke which runs from one end of the line to the other end. Okay, now what I mean by that is we make a solid line, solid white line that goes all the way across the mask. Now to do that, we just go up here into Effect, then Generate, and then Stroke. So Effect, Generate, Stroke, and there you go. You can see that white line has appeared along the mask. It's a little bit hard for you to see. Over here in our effect controls, we can bring the brush size up a bit just to make it easier to see. But for what we're trying to achieve, we're just going to keep it down here at 2. Okay, so that's good. Now, what we want to do next is animate that line. So it's not a solid line, but it's just a tiny dot that travels from one end to the other. Now you can control it up here in your effect controls, but personally, I like to do it down here in my timeline. So if I go to Effects, Stroke, I can add all my keyframes and things like this down here. Now it's probably better because you can actually see where your keyframes are and that way if you need to line things up, it makes it a lot easier. So let's control it down here for now. So what we'll do to start with is, you can see our start and end times. For when the animation starts with the sparkle, I want the percentage of my start to be 1 and the percentage of my end to be 0. What that does, it makes the line start at 1% and end at 0%. So if you have it again, if you look here, you can see it, that has now become just a tiny dot, right at the end there. And we want that dot to travel across from one end to the other. So let's keyframe that, so start and end. The other thing too that I sometimes do is just add a glow to this dot, just to make it pop a little bit more in the middle. So when you do have the sparkle, it just pops out a little bit brighter. You don't have to do that, but I just find that sort of looks good as well. So anyway, back to this. So we're back here. Now we've got our start. We've got our start time at 1% and our end time at 0. So now let's move forward, perhaps let's say a second, maybe a second and a half, maybe somewhere around here. And in that time, the dot's going to travel from one end to the other. So to make that happen, we go back here to our start and end times. And so where we want the animation to end, we're going to have the start time at 100 and the end time at 99. Which means from that dot, it will start at 100 and end at 99. And that will travel the whole way across with that 1% gap. So it will just look like a dot traveling from one end to the other. So you can see it there. Okay, that's exactly what you want to do. All right, so the next part is to add the glimmer effect. Now the glimmer effect, like I said in my introduction, is from a package by Red Giant called Universe, and it's got some amazing effects. I personally use them a lot, especially if you're doing things like trying to create your own NFT animations or music videos and things like that. These effects are great for those kind of things, and they're a lot of fun to use. So I find myself using them a lot. I think it's around $200 US for a yearly subscription. So if you can afford that, yeah, I think it would be a good investment. But like I mentioned also, there is other ways we can make this effect, and we can create a similar sparkle in Photoshop, which I'll show you after this. But let's continue with this for now. So I'm going to grab this glimmer effect and throw it onto my sparkle composition, okay, just under here. And you'll notice it immediately adds the glimmer. You don't have to do anything. There's already a glimmer that you could potentially use if it looks right for your project. That will appear straight away. So if I drop it on, bang, you see that glimmer, you see the streaks, and it's a nice looking effect. However, every project's different, and for this particular one, I want my sparkle to look slightly different. So we've got a lot of control over that. And if you look over here in our effect controls, we've got all the different streaks which we can control, and we've got colors and things like that. So let's start with the streaks. Before we even do that, I'm going to choose a preset as a starting point. So we click on presets. You've got lots of different options, so you might like to go through. Some of them have like 8 streaks, some of them have 1, right? This one has 1 long one. I think some of them have ones with different lengths. So there's lots of different starting points that you could choose from. I like this one as a good starting point, Cold Heaven. It's got 8 different streaks, and I think it's something that we can work with. So let's go with that one. Now, like I said, I'm not too thrilled with the length of this. I want it to be a little bit shorter. So if we click on this drop down arrow in our streak 1, we can adjust the length. So length A and length B. So that would be A would be one side, B would be the other. So let's change that to 0.3. All right, and you'll notice it has come a bit shorter. Let's go down to streak 2 and change that to 0.4. All right, again, streak 2, so streak 3, sorry, 0.3, 0.3, and lastly streak 4, we'll do that 0.4 and 0.4. Alright, now if we have a look, you'll notice that all the streaks have become shorter, and that's a better length for what I think it will fit a lot better with what we're doing here. Now the colours, so you'll notice this blue tinge within the sparkle. I kind of want to get rid of that and just want to have a nice bright white colour. So up here again with our streaks we've got colour maps, and down the bottom you can control what the colour maps are. So in colour map A, at the moment it's a white, kind of like a off-white, maybe make it white, and then we've got an orange. So I'm going to change that orange to maybe like a really light blue kind of colour. So give it a tiny bit of colour throughout, but mainly white. And then we can assign each streak to a colour map. So streak 1 and 2 are already assigned to colour map A. Streak 3, let's make that colour map A, and streak 4. Now if we look over here, you can see that nice bright white sparkle. So that's what I wanted to see here. Alright, cool. So now, if we look here and we go across to our keyframes, that sparkle will travel from one end to the other. Okay, we'll just play it through. Okay, and that's following the line of the glass nicely. Beautiful. Taking a little bit of time to render, so that's not real time, but you get the idea. So next thing we want to do is we want that sparkle to rotate as it moves. That's really easy to do also. If we scroll up here in our effect controls, we've got glimmer and we've got rotation. So let's line up our keyframe here with when it starts to move and click a keyframe for rotation. Alright, now let's move across to the end when it's finished getting to the other side, and let's change that rotation time here. So I'm going to change that to 1. Okay, and let's change the parameter. Now the higher you make this number, the faster it will spin. So for this animation, I don't want it to go too fast. I just want it to be a nice, smooth, slow rotation as it travels across. So let's have a look at that. Okay, again, not real time, but you'll see, you get the idea. Okay, looks pretty good to me. Beautiful. Now the last thing we want to make sure we do, we don't want that sparkle sitting there for the entire animation and then just moving at a certain point. We want it to just appear when it moves and then disappear again. So all we need to do that is click on transform down here, and we got our opacity. So a keyframe before it starts to move, roughly, I'm going to have it at 0. Alright, and then add that keyframe. Now if I press page down on my keyboard and move forward a frame or 2, then I can bring it in at 100. Okay, so it's going to be off and then on. So let's scroll across now to the end of the animation, and again let's keyframe it at 100 here, and page down, then 0, so it fades away. You can have it fade away a little bit slower if you wanted to, but I'd probably think for this situation it's better if it just sort of switches off. So let's take a look at that now. Oh, again, takes a bit of time. Got to help it along sometimes. There we go, and that's at full speed. Beautiful. Okay, so let's fit that, and let's see if we can watch the whole animation now with the sparkle included. Sparkle comes across nicely. Beautiful. Okay, one more time. Sparkle across. And there it is. Okay. So that's one way to do it using the glimmer effect. In the next tutorial, I'll explain how it's done using Photoshop. Alright, see you then. Okay, so the next way we're going to achieve this sparkle effect is by creating our sparkle in Photoshop. So let's go into Photoshop and click File, New, and make it 500 by 500 pixels. Let's make sure that's on pixels and click Create. Alright, so we've got our white background here, and first thing I'm going to do is create a new fill layer. So go Layer, New Fill Layer, Solid Color. You don't have to worry about calling it anything, and click OK and make it black. Beautiful. Now on top of this fill layer, we're going to make another transparent layer. So just go Layer, New, and Layer. So we've got our background layer, we don't need that, we can just get rid of it. We've got our black fill layer, we can just leave it like that, and our transparent layer on top. Alright, so what we want to do now is use our grid and our canvas guides to give us some parameters so that we can create our sparkle shape accurately and symmetrically. So we want to use our rulers to get our canvas guides. Now if you don't have your rulers up, right, if it's like that and there is no rulers, to get it you just hold down Control and click R, and that will bring up your rulers on the vertical and horizontal sides of your screen. Now we also want the grid so that we can sort of line them up, line our canvas guides up accurately. So what we do to get that, we go View and Extras, and your grid should come up. If it doesn't, go View, Show, then Grid. Okay, View, Show, Grid, and make sure your Extras is clicked as well. Now my grid, people's grids can be set up differently depending on what your values are. So let's go into Edit, Preferences, and then Grid, Guides and Slices. Now you'll see here that I've got my grid line at every 100 pixels and 4 subdivisions, and for what we're doing here, they're good guides for what we need. So let's just keep that. So just have a look at those values so you know, and click OK. Alright, so now let's put some canvas guides in. So to do that, all you have to do is click in your ruler and drag it down. I want to put one in the middle, and it should snap to the middle when it gets there. Nice. And let's do one vertically. Now we're going to put another one here, and the same down the bottom. So basically on these sort of boulder lines. Alright, so that's a nice little 4 square grid that we have to work with. So now, to get our sparkle shape, what we're going to do is use our paint tool and just make sure that it's at about 6, the size is 6, and it doesn't really matter what brush you use, okay, in the general brushes. Oh, it does. I'm going to use, you can either use a soft round or a hard round. I'm just going to go with the soft round for now. Alright, so now let's create our streaks for our sparkle. So to make a straight line with the paint tool, what you do is you click a point and then you hold down the Shift key and you click another point, and it will create a straight line between those 2 points. Right, so we want one there, do one here. So my diagonal streaks, I'll have them a little bit shorter, so I'm going to come in 2 squares either end for that one, and the same here. 1, 2, cool. Alright, now let's remove all our canvas guides and grid lines. So just go up to View and click off Extras, and they're gone. Alright, good. So now we've got a nice shape to work with. So let's make this look a little bit more like the sparkle we had with the glimmer effect in the last part. Right, so firstly I'm going to go up to Filter, then Blur, and I'm going to give it a radial blur. Alright, so make sure when you're doing your radial blur that it's on zoom, not spin, zoom, and you can crank it up to about 80 and then click OK. Cool. Now already you'll notice what that's done. It's sort of blurred out the ends of the streaks a little bit to give it sort of that faded out look, which is what we want. But we can take it further. We can make it even look better than this by adding a few more effects and things. So let's keep going. So let's go filter, distort, and spherize. Now crank that value all the way down to -100, and what that will do, it will shorten it a little bit and it will sort of sharpen it as well. Okay, just gives a bit more of a sharper look. Alright, now let's go into our layer effects. So if we go over onto our layer 1 here and just double click it, that will bring up our layer style. So we can add some things here. So let's add an outer glow to this to kind of extend that sort of transparent look towards the end of each streak. So we click outer glow. Well, in this case, it's sort of just brightened it up around the sort of the main streaks. And these values that I've got here already, so if I click on outer glow, I'm sort of happy with. So I did practice this previous to doing the recording. So I've already got the values here. So we've got opacity at 15, okay, which I thought was kind of a good spot. Then our size at 29. Okay, sort of want it to be surrounding that streak, something like that. Contour, I had it here, this one, and the range. Don't sort of want that white, that sort of dark circle in the middle, so make sure we got it kind of there, and that's all good. Don't need any jitter or anything like that. Okay, that's a nice little glow around each streak, so let's keep that. Click OK. But there's one more thing we can do to make it even more similar to the original. So let's duplicate this layer. So click on it and hold down Control and click J. Now we've duplicated it. Now let's resize it. So to resize the layer, you hold down Control and click T, and that brings up your free transform option. So we can just drag this out, make it a bit bigger, and then line it up again with the original beneath it. Okay, nice, sort of snaps in nicely. Now with this copy layer, let's add a blur to this. So let's go to Filter, Blur, and we'll do a Gaussian blur this time. All right, we can give it quite a bit. That's way too much. Bring it back. So it sort of still holds that shape, but you'll see, like I tried to mention earlier, that transparency off the end of the sparkle. Okay, and we can also bring it down a little bit over here as well. So if I got the fill and I just bring it down a bit, it will just be more subtle, which I think is a nice touch. Maybe something around there. Alright, that's not looking too bad. So let's stick with this for now, and then when we bring it over into After Effects, we can also add some effects to it as well to kind of make it even more similar to what the original was. Okay, so let's get rid of our fill layer and let's merge these two layers together. So we hold down the Shift click key and click on both layers. So we've got both layers selected, then right click and click merge layers. So now it's just the one layer. It's a little bit difficult to see there because it's on a transparent background, but it's there. And what we want to do is sort of have it so that there's no space between the pixels. It's just the size of the picture is all there is. So at the moment you can see there's quite a lot of transparent parts to the image around the outside of it. So let's get rid of them, and the way we do that is we go Image, Trim, and trim all the transparent pixels that doesn't have any pixels on it, and we click OK, and that's just resized the file so it's just the shape we want. Alright, perfect. Now, let's export that out. Go File, Export, Export as quick PNG. Find the folder you want to save it to. So I'm just going to call this Sparkle PS Photoshop 1 and click Save. Alright, cool. So we're done with Photoshop now. We've got our sparkle shape looking reasonably good, and now when we bring it into After Effects, we can adjust it a little bit more and then add all the animations. So let's minimize Photoshop and bring up After Effects. Alright, so here's the original one with the glimmer plugin, okay, that we made earlier. Alright, so you can see it there. But this time I'm going to bring in the image that we just created. So drag that over into my project section, and let's just remove the sparkle at the moment. Let's just turn that off so that we can't see it, and we'll bring in the one we just created, and I'll just put it on top of that one. Okay, cool, there it is. So already we need to do a few things. We need to sort of reposition it, which is easy to do, and maybe scale it down. And I'll just bring this one in again just to see the size we had. Okay, similar size, that's pretty good. Here. Okay, so cool. So now we got their sparkle there. Can we do a few things to this sparkle in After Effects? Yes, we can. So let's click on our effect controls. I'm just zooming in a little bit as well so we can see it a bit better. Okay, so first effect we can add here is a radial blur, radial fast blur. So if I can find that. Radial fast blur. Maybe do. I think that's the one we want. Let's try this. Cool, and we play around with that. So you can sort of, you don't want to do it too high. So I think 50 was a good spot, perhaps, for that. And then another Gaussian blur on top of that, and maybe jack that up, not too much. Yeah, maybe around 12. Okay, so that's sort of just blurred it out a bit and made it a little bit more opaque, a little bit more transparent. So now if we bring in the other one and get rid of that. Okay, this is pretty good, pretty similar. You could maybe play around with the scale a little bit more. Bring it down a tad, like that. Okay, but I mean, that's reasonably similar. Okay, that's a pretty good result. So now to animate this one, it's a little bit different. So we're going to draw our path, but we're going to do it a bit differently. So over here in our timeline, we don't want to have anything selected. All right, so at the moment you can see I'm selecting the different layers here, but let's click off it so there's nothing selected. Then when I click my pen tool, what that will do is it will create a shape layer if I use it. So if I click on this pen tool, and you'll notice, I don't know if it comes up on the screen capture I'm using, but it's a pen tool with a star next to it. Okay, that means it's going to create a shape. So let's draw our path like we did in our original. Okay, just like that. Now with this shape layer, we want to copy that path, and then we're going to paste that path onto our sparkle image. So if I click on shape layer and click the drop down arrow, then contents, shape, path 1, all the way here to get to path. Okay, then you can edit copy or control C. Alright, bring that back up. Now go to sparkle, this sparkle where we've brought in, and click the P button for position, and then click on position here and go edit paste. That's now made a path for that sparkle to follow along. Okay, and that's just a really cool way to do it. We no longer need this shape layer, so let's click on that and click delete. Okay, we've got the path from it, and now it's moving nicely across. All right, so now we just need to make our animation of the sparkle rotating and to bring it in and out at the right times. So let's do the rotation first. So this time with the rotation, we're going to do it here as opposed to last time when we did it on the plugin. So let's click on the image, the sparkle, and hold down Control and click R. Well, let's try that again. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to hold down Shift and click R, sorry. That brought up the rulers though, so there's a good thing to know. So with the rotation, okay, again, let's keyframe it at 0, bring it over here, and change this to 1. Alright, and that should rotate now nicely across. Just got to help it along with its rendering. Let's try again. Nearly there. Okay, pretty good. So you can get the idea. Okay, nice. Also, don't forget to change the transparency. So start one frame before it sort of starts moving. This time, hold down the Shift key and press T. That brings up your opacity. So we'll start with it at 0 and give it a keyframe. Okay, move forward a frame, bring it in at 100, slide it across to the end of the animation, keyframe it again at 100, keyframe it, move it across a frame, then keyframe it back at 0. Alright, and now it will come in when it should, and then disappear. So let's just compare that now to the original. So if I bring in the original, original's moving a little bit faster than ours. So to change the speed, all you need to do here is click on this top position and bring it in a bit. Okay, and you'll now notice that it's lined up. Then also don't forget to move these across also, so they line up. That's why it's good to edit things down in your timeline so you can see where things line up. So now if we play them together, almost identical. Now let's take away the original and just look at the one we've done through Photoshop. Okay, now let's look at the original again. Okay, the sunlight is just shining on my screen right now, so I'm having a little bit of trouble seeing that. But okay, you get the idea. So there is the one we just created, pretty good. And then here is the one we did before. Oh. There it is. Okay, so you can see that they're very similar. There's not a lot of difference that I can see. Maybe slightly in the center, but I think that's a pretty good result for not using the plugin. Alright, so there you have it. There's the second way to do it. There's the workaround using Photoshop. I hope you got something out of that. And just one more thing I want to show you, and that's if you have to create a sparkle like I did in the intro, and it's got to follow a certain time. It can't just be just a consistent time from one to the other. It might change speeds. So I'm just going to quickly touch on that too in the next part. Thank you, I'll see you then. Alright, so the last thing we want to do is to create this sparkle effect, but to have it travelling at varying speeds, so not just a one constant speed from one end to the other, because that's not always going to be ideal depending on what you want the path to follow. So let's drag in the footage that I had from my introduction, and I had the effect included on that. So I'm just going to drag that into Project Panel and then down into my timeline. There I am. And next I'm going to scroll forward to the part where I make that gesture with my hand as if the sparkle is following it. So it's here, it starts here. Okay, about there's good. And now let's do our new composition. We'll do it two ways quickly. We'll do the one with the glimmer effect, and then we'll do the one that we created ourselves. So new composition. All right, all these values are good. Sparkle 3. Click OK. All right, double click back on our intro composition. Now bring that on top of, like we did before. Alright, great. So next we do our path. Okay, so we get our pen tool. Again, you can't see the pen tool unfortunately on the screen capture. Just an arrow for some reason, but it is there. And the path is roughly from here to here, but we can alter that so it's a bit more accurate. So as we go along, okay, you notice the sort of path changes. So what I can see now is a pen tool with a plus on it, which means I can add a edit point, right? Continue, add an edit point, so it's sort of more following the path that I create with my hand. All right, so that's better. Okay, that follows it much better. Cool. So the next thing we do is we generate that stroke. So effect, generate, and stroke. There it is. Right. See that stroke there. And now let's just give it a starting point and ending point, and then I'll show you how we can adjust the speed. Let's bring it down here in our timeline so we can see our keyframes better. So remember, our starting point is 1 and our ending point is 0. And keyframe those. Then let's go to the end where my hand finishes the gesture here, and let's make that 100, and let's make this 99. And I'll bring my stroke up so we can see it better as it goes across. Now this is what I'm talking about. You can see how it's not really following the path of my hand. It's kind of ahead of it. So it starts in the right spot, ends in the right spot. So this is how I get around that one. So if I'm moving here, okay, now I want to bring it back around here. So what I'm going to do is just move my end time back a bit, okay, to about here. So it fits in. Now I've moved it off the screen, but it is there. In fact, I'll bring it back and give myself a little bit more space. Let's move this forward about here. Now let's try it, and now it will be a bit, so I don't want to lose it off the screen. It gets away, but you can see how I'm moving it. Okay, let's put it there. Now let's keyframe that spot. Okay, so keyframe that spot. So now it's sort of more accurately there, and as I keep going, now it goes ahead. So I'm going to bring it forward this time. My end time, and then keyframe that. Okay, let's keep going. So it sort of stays nicely now. Gets away a little bit here, so let's bring this in a bit. Keyframe, and that might do it. So it ends there, bring that to there we go. So that should now be following the speed of my hand a lot better. Yeah, pretty close. Okay, now I could play around with that for 5 or 10 minutes just to get it perfect, but I think you get the idea. So I'm moving the end time and then keyframing at different points to make it so it's keeping up. Okay, so just quickly now with this sparkle effect, I can bring that brush, I can bring my brush size back down to 2. So with the glimmer effect, let's chuck it on. Okay, there it is. So if I go choose preset, Now I did save a preset. Let's see if I can find it. There it is, NFT sparkle. So I've already done it, like we had before. So apply. Maybe with the light boost, I might give it a light boost. So you can see how it's quite faint. On the glimmer effect, there's an option called light boost. If you change that parameter, it goes a bit brighter. And just the last thing remember to do is your rotation and your transparency. So let's do our transparency first. So 1 frame prior to it moving. Okay, I'm going to hit the T button and bring it all the way down, keyframe it, move it forward a frame and then go 100. Let's move to the end of the animation. Okay, right here, let's go 100. Page down to move forward a frame and remove the transparency to opacity to 0. Good. Last thing, rotate. Shift R, keyframe at 0 to the end, keyframe at 1, and now that's a common thing that I've done because I have done it both different ways, and sometimes I get it mixed up, and that's something that might happen to you too. So it's not a bad thing I did that. And you're like, what is going on? What I did wrong was I keyframed it at the wrong place for the plugin. So for the glimmer plugin, we don't do the rotation here. We do if it's our one that we've created. No, we do our rotation in the plugin. Okay, so I should have done it here, which means my rotation should have been keyframed here, and then 1. Now that will run correctly. All right, so that, yeah, something, just be aware of that. Don't get confused with your different rotations. But having said that, the next way, remember, we do it that way. So let's do that one quickly too, so I can show you. So let's get rid of this sparkle composition, and I'm going to bring in the image that we created in Photoshop. Sparkle, this one. So let's put that in. Okay, again, just quickly go to where it starts. There. Now I'm not going to add all the other effects to this sparkle like I did in the other one, because the point of this one is to show you how to keep it at the same speed. I might resize it a little bit. Oops. There we go. That should be good. Right. So remember to create a path for the image. We click off all of these layers and we click on our pen tool and we make a shape layer. So like our mask, we just do a similar distance, right? And again, you can adjust it the same way. You get a little plus icon on your pen. If that happens, just click off, then on again, and then reselect your pen tool. Not sure why it does that. It just happens sometimes. It happened again. Click on your pen tool. Alright, not too bad. Again, you could spend a bit more time getting it perfect, but that's okay. Right, so what we got to do next, get a bit more, not a very flattering frame for me to stop on. Alright, so next what we do, remember, we drill down on our shape layer, down arrow, contents, shape 1, path 1, path, Control C or edit copy. Then we go onto our sparkle and press P for position and click on position, and we go edit and paste, and that pastes that path for us. Okay, again, now you'll see the sparkle's not really in line with the movement of my hand here, so let's fix that. So similar way, slightly different. So let's move it along. Okay, now we want to get it in the right spot here, so let's stretch this out this way this time. The M1, we just have to stretch it and it will go to where we want. So we keyframe the position here. Okay, over here is what we keyframe. So not the start and end times like the other one. We keyframe the position. Let's continue moving along. It's pretty good. Okay, we lose it a little bit here. Let's move it forward this way. Position keyframe. Good, good, good. Pretty good. Maybe move it forward a bit. And that's like, that's probably good. All right. Again, you could probably toggle that a little bit, make a few more slight adjustments to get it perfect, but that's how you would do it. All right. So yep, quickly, let's do the last part just so we know. We get rid of the shape layer, do not need that now. We just need it for its path, so click on it, press delete. Press T for your opacity. Let's bring it out and keyframe. Page down, bring it in. All right, to the end. Keyframe it at 100, page down. Bring it out. Now the rotation this time is done. Hold down the Shift key and press R on the layer. All right, so here, keyframe, move it across, give it value of 1, and there you go. All right, so that's how it's done. I know that was a very long tutorial. There are quite a few different ways to do things, but I really hope that you got something out of it. And yeah, see you soon. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Just a couple of other things. If you want to check out some of the music videos that I've made, then check out this channel. If you want to check out my beats page, then check out this channel. Don't forget to jump over to the Discord server. I'm your boy Wiz, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Peace.